Namaskar and welcome back. Today we'll have a highly interesting topic, at least in my opinion. It's about Tantra. And we try to demystify some of the secrets of Tantra. Because in history of spirituality, in history of Tantra, Tantric practices have been secret. And for very good reasons, because the practice of Tantra is basically about expanding the mind. And when mind becomes very expanded, mind gains certain power. Mind becomes powerful. A contracted mind, a limited mind is weak. A very expanded mind is powerful. And if these powers, these psychic powers, are used for selfish reason, then that becomes a very big problem, not just for the individual person, but for the whole society. And that has been the case in the history, that some tantrics have misutilized their powers, and that can create tremendous problems in the society. So that's why these practices has always been secret, and they today are secret. I will not disclose the secrets. I will tell you where you can learn the secrets, but I will tell you about the practices, because it's important to understand this Tantra. First, let us analyze the word Tantra. It has two words. Tan plus tra equals Tantra. Tan means crudeness, something crude. And tra is the same tra as in mantra. Tra means to liberate. For example, mantra, man means mind. Mantra is that which liberates the mind. Tantra is that which liberates from crudeness, liberates from the crude tendency a person has. And the other meaning of Tantra is expansion. To take the mind and expand it, expand it, expand it. To expand the mind, one needs to work on the crude tendencies, or we can say the weaknesses of the mind. And that is, in a nutshell, what Tantra is about. Working on oneself and expanding the mind. To expand the mind, one needs to work on oneself. It is a path of self-development. So, what's the difference between Tantra and Yoga? There is not much difference. While Yoga are more about working on just working on oneself. Tantra is that also, but Tantra has a very important aspect, and that's the aspect of the society. Tantra deals with every aspect of the society, deals with every aspect of life. For example, Tantra is about expanding the mind from being limited to be infinite. That means it's a spiritual path. It is about moving towards infinity, moving towards the supreme, becoming a supreme being. That is the goal of Tantra. But if a father does not have money to feed his children, can he sit down and do meditation to expand his mind? Will he have peace of mind to do that? No. He can only think about how to feed his children. So, if Tantra is genuine and want to help every person expand their mind, have a better life, lead a spiritual life, Tantra has to solve the problems of the society so the father can feed his children. That's why Tantra deals with every aspect of life. Deals with economy, Tantra have tried to come with solutions, how to solve the global economical situation. Tantra is about social service. Tantra deals with everything. While yoga is more about one's own personal development. So that's, in a nutshell, difference between yoga and of Tantra. One of the key aspects of Tantra is the fighting aspect. What does that mean? Fight against what? Well, fight on different levels. But first, like I said, Tantra is about expansion of mind. To expand the mind, one has to conquer those negative tendencies in here. Not just the thoughts, but the actions. The thoughts, the negative thoughts or selfish thoughts leads to selfish actions. Negative thoughts leads to negative action. As you think, so you become. So, if a person tries to meditate to expand the mind, but the mind is thinking about how to get that beautiful car, then he cannot meditate. So then one have to fight against that thought of the car. That's what it means, the fighting aspect. Fight against those tendencies the mind has that holds back the process of meditation, holds back the process of expansion. For example, a person have certain ego, so you need to fight against that ego. If a person has fear, like all human beings have fear. We are afraid of so many things. And this fear is a very negative tendency of human mind. Because of fear, we are afraid of doing this, we are afraid of doing that. I'm afraid of taking up a certain job because I don't think I'm capable of it. I'm afraid of having a family because I don't think I can handle it. I'm afraid of traveling to such and such country because it's scary there. I'm afraid, a million things. Analyze yourself and see how much fear there is in your mind. That fear is a huge hindrance for our spiritual progress, for the expansion of the mind, expand the mind towards divinity. So, to fight against fear is one of the important aspects of Tantra. So what tantrics do, so one can do very practical things to overcome this fear. These tendencies of the mind we have that holds our development back. These tendencies can rarely be removed intellectually. That's important. They can rarely be removed by an intellectual process. They are removed by a practical process. Hence, Tantra is very, very practical. Very practical. Tantra is 99% practice and only 1% theory. Gradually, as we start to learn the tantric practices, every part of the day you will start to integrate these practices. It is highly, highly practical. So, when we start to work on the fear, we start to face those situations where the fear occurs. So there's one very, I don't know if I should say well known, but for those who are really into Tantra, those who are really studied it and practiced it, they know about these practices. And that is to go to those, face those situations, go to places that create fear. Face it. For example, one is afraid of darkness, afraid of the night, afraid of go out in the night, afraid of darkness of the night. Then one tantric practice can be to go out in a very fearful place in the night, in the middle of the night, and sit there and meditate. And that one do with cosmic ideation. One go out, one take a cosmic ideation, one contemplate on the divine, on the supreme, and then one go to such a place where one feel the fear very strongly, and one sit there and one meditate with cosmic ideation and trust that cosmos will take care of you in this situation. And that is an important aspect. I will explain it. As I have said many times, the goal of Tantra is to move, expand the mind, move towards divinity. That is not so easy. Where is the divine? What is the divine? How am I? Small me. I'm such a tiny little being in this vast cosmos. I'm so small that if one sees the whole cosmos, one cannot notice small me. So, how can I, with my limited mental power, how can I realize the Supreme Consciousness? How can I get in contact with the Supreme Consciousness? Well, the fact is that when any person have a desire to get in contact with the Supreme and start to do tantric practices, become a tantric, then the Supreme Consciousness, which love every aspect of its creation, then that Supreme Consciousness will come and guide you step by step. Make sure that you are safe on the journey. And that happens. That is not just words, empty words. This is the reality. Every tantric knows this. Every tantric experiences it every day. And that aspect of the Supreme that come and guide the individual and take care of the individual on that journey, that aspect is known as Guru. That is the Guru. And that is why when we start tantric practices, we go first through a process of Diksha. Diksha, there's no really English word for Diksha, but you can say initiation, but it's not initiation, maybe not the way you think about it, but Diksha means where the person are being introduced to the Guru, where the person start to learn the secret practices of Tantra. And that is a very special process. When the person goes through that Diksha, the person are given by the Supreme, given a power to start the practice. So even we feel weak, we feel small, when we want to meet our Creator, the Creator give us what we need to start the journey. So to work on the fear aspect, to start to work on not just fear, but all those things that holds our development back. We get tremendous support and help from the cosmic consciousness. That is the beauty of these practices. And when soon as we start to practice, even during the Diksha, one start to feel that love coming from cosmos. One start to feel it. It rises up in the body, beautiful feeling of love. And that is an experience, that love, that bliss, that in Sanskrit known as Ananda. That Ananda is the touch of the Supreme Consciousness. And once one have experienced it once, one know it exists. It's not a theory anymore. The person goes beyond faith. It's not about I believe or I don't believe or I don't need to have faith. I know the person, know the existence of the Supreme, and start to feel that close relationship, that very loving relationship, that family relationship between the father or the mother or whatever we want to call it. Just like any father, any mother loves his or her children, that Supreme loves his children 1,000,000 times more, forever, no matter how many mistakes we do. So now we start to see Tantra, how practical it is, how beautiful it is. The most powerful way to expand the mind is to give the mind a very elevated thought, a very expanded thought. So when we meditate, or throughout the day, we are learning to use a cosmic ideation. That means contemplation on divinity. When the mind takes an infinite thought, like the Supreme is infinite, then the mind expands. If the mind takes a limited thought, if the mind thinks about a house, a car, a dress, mind contracts. So the essence of Tantra is to constantly train the mind in taking that very expanded thought. Think about Supreme reality, the infinite reality, the blissful reality of love. When we do that, mind just expands and expands and expands, and we understand more and more and more about everything. We start to understand what is life. We start to understand what is the universe. We start to realize and understand what is the Supreme. What is it? So that is known as ideation, to take the idea of the Supreme and constantly bring it into your mind. Bring that infinite idea into your mind again and again and again. To bring that idea into the mind is not easy. Hence, in the beginning, I talked about the fighting aspect. One have to fight. It's a fight to bring that thought into the mind, because mind has so many other thoughts it likes to think about. So to bring that thought into the mind more and more, one have to fight with oneself, with one's own mind. It's not a grim fight, it's not an ugly fight, it's a beautiful fight. It's an inspiring fight. The more you can bring that idea of the Supreme into your mind, you feel the beautiful feeling, the feeling of love, the feeling of bliss. Life becomes beautiful. The more you can bring that into your mind, the more you see the creation as an expression of divinity, the more you see everything. You see the Supreme in everything. Mind becomes more and more positive, less and less negative. And we need to bring that idea into the mind. There has to be a fight. There's a struggle to do it, but it's a beautiful struggle. To be able to do it, one need to make the mind pure. One have to make the mind more and more pure. That's why tantrics, they start to go through a process of purification, working on the negative aspect of the mind, overcome the negative tendencies of the mind, selfishness, hatred, ego, anger, fear, jealousy, these things that holds us down. We start to work with them in a highly practical way. If a person have hatred, the person that practice, he try to serve the creation, serve more and more, think more about the welfare of other. That is the practice of a person who have hatred, and so on. Every negative tendency have a special practice. So our actions, our mind need to be purified, but also we need to be pure in our diet. Need to be more and more pure. If the diet has food which has very crude vibration, then the mind also becomes more crude. So the food of a tantric, the food of a yogi, is a very pure food. Fruits, vegetables, and avoid that food which has strong vibration, which make the ideation difficult, which makes the mind restless. So we need to do different practices to purify the body, to purify the mind. So when we start to get more pure in our thought, pure in our diet, then our conduct also start to get pure. Why do we call a saint for a saint? Because his conduct is very pure. He thinks about the welfare of others. He don't think about himself. He put others in front of himself. Purity in conduct, because he is working with his negative tendency. He's taking pure diet. He's going through a constant process of purification. And as this happens, the person are becoming less and less selfish, think less and less about himself, and more about the welfare of humanity, the collective welfare, not just the welfare of human beings, the welfare of all beings. That person becomes a tremendous asset for this planet. That's the kind of people we need. If the more such persons we get, this planet will become a paradise. We are now walking around in dirt, literally speaking, in negativity. So I think it makes sense that the more tantrics, the more these kind of spiritual persons we get, the better for the future of the whole planet. Remember, Tantra is 99% practice and 1% theory. One must practice Tantra to understand Tantra. One cannot be just a theoretical tantric. If one don't practice it, one cannot understand it. This is important to understand. That's why if you want to understand Tantra, well, you can study it, but find a real tantric, a real acharya that can start to teach you this beautiful practice, so you can start your journey towards your final goal, your final destination. The destination is the Supreme. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.